And Dr. Friend, we're not done with you yet.
I know.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you so much. We're gonna, for those of you who's gonna scan today, raise your hand if you're gonna scan. Okay, so what we're gonna do is the next 4 people that come up, they're gonna talk about specifically. So he's talked about heart. Now Dr. Prince is gonna break down what your scan represents, what that means, so that you know the action that you need to take. Then we're gonna do the gut health. We're gonna also do the liver, and I believe that concludes today. Yep. So Dr. Prince, if you can diagnose what's happening, right?
I am. If you guys did a scan, pull your scan out. We're gonna go over some important stuff. This is important. You can't see it, but this is the cardiovascular and cerebral vascular report card. This is your report card. I'm waiting for my pointer. Cardiovascular represents your heart. Cerebral vascular represents your brain. This is actually one of the most important reports on the BioScan. The reason being, as Dr. Thomas talked about, your heart and your brain, if they are not communicating properly, you're under stress and the body can't heal. They call it heart-brain coherence. In other words, your heart is always communicating with your brain, and your brain is always communicating with your heart. But check this out. You have more nerve cells called afferent that are going up to the brain than the brain coming down to the heart. So the headquarters is not the brain, it's your heart. Isn't that why it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he? Your heart is 5,000 times more magnetic than your brain. And guess what? It's 100 times more electric than your brain. If you want to know what's running the show, it's your heart. That's why I say, remember I told you, a threat to our heart is a jeopardy of our communication with God. So pull out your bioscans because we want to see where your heart is. Somebody was supposed to be, it slipped around on up under. Can they see me? Can they see me on there?
Yeah, you're fine. I got you. Everybody is this side. I'll move this next. So come on this side. Come on this side. So this is the mic. Yep, you're fine. I'll move this out of their way.
Anybody want to move up to the front seat so you can actually hear what the doctor said? You've been here already. You can understand your case. Any guests in the room that have been scanned for the first time, move up to a closer seat. They can come up here. Yeah,
Come on up. Everybody get in a position to learn to scan, because I want you to understand that when you decide you want to become a wellness coach, you're going to be learning this. You're going to be going to Atlanta, Boston, Texas. You're going to be going all over teaching this to everybody. And I'm going to tell you why, because one, MRI, CAT scan, X-rays, they're calibrated on trauma levels. You know what that means? That means that they're not seeing things until it's in the late stages. They're looking at abnormality out to hundreds of millions of cells. So when they see something, it's in the late stages. And we saw that with the report where doctors can recognize disease at what, 30%. The reason they can't recognize it earlier is because the equipment is not calibrated to see it early. The BioScan can ascertain the pattern of disease down to 10 cells. That's why we can see what's going on in normal range, which is all green. Blue is mildly abnormal. Yellow is moderate. Red is severe. These are the items tested. This is the normal range where they should be. This is where you are. The color code reflects where you are. So we start with what's most severe. Now there's no red on here, but this person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the yellow. 1, 2, 3 in the blue. When the indicator is to the right of the green, there's an increase in this item. If the indicator is to the left of the green, there's a decrease in that item. You with me?
Right. Yeah.
So look at your reports. We're going to start from the top and go down. I'm going to assume that everybody's somewhere on here. So we're going to start with viscosity. Viscosity is usually at an increase. It's not too often you're going to see it at a decrease. You're going to see this at an increase, mild, moderate, or severe. Viscosity, you should be familiar with this. Viscosity is the thickness of the blood and how it flows through your vascular system. So if you have an increase in your viscosity, that means that your blood is thick and your metabolism is slow. You know how people say my metabolism is slowing down? Well, that might be true, but that's not just because of old age. That's because of an increase in blood viscosity. So you may see a mild, moderate, or severe. Now I'm going to jump over cholesterol for a second and go to blood fat. These two usually go hand in hand. Blood fat, of course, is the fatty deposits, the triglycerides that's in your blood. What do you think those triglycerides are probably doing to the blood? Probably causing it to thicken up. This is important because if you have slow blood flow, then that means you have slow transportation of nutrients and oxygen to where? To the tissue. If you're trying to run up the stairs or walk up the stairs, if your blood is slow, it's going to take a while for that oxygen to get to the tissue. So you wind up becoming winded. In this situation, the goal that we have is to clean the blood. When you clean the blood, like we were talking about the Eliquis, when the person decided not to take the Eliquis and he started to do the cleanse, guess what? The cleanse did just that. It caused the blood to become thin, but we use stuff like ginger, we use stuff like cayenne pepper, and the cleanse itself. So you don't have to take drugs to thin the blood. Cholesterol, if you are a meat eater, you're adding more cholesterol on top of what you don't need. Your liver produces a sufficient amount of cholesterol. In other words, we don't need any dietary cholesterol. So when you consume animal products, you're adding to what you don't need. So that's why the cholesterol starts to increase. So if you have, and that's usually to the right as well. Sometimes we'll have people with 1, 2, 3 yellows onto the right. That means that they have thick blood, cholesterol in the blood, and blood fat. In that situation, all you can do is detox the body. That's how you clean the blood, because the life of the flesh is where? So, vascular resistance. Now, you're not going to see this to the left. You're going to see this to the right. There's an increase. So if you're looking at a mild, moderate, or severe vascular resistance, you're not processing your environment well. You're not managing your stress well. You're reactionary. You're predictable. You see? That means that you're allowing people outside of you, things outside of you, to control you. Like he was saying, you gotta, sometimes you just gotta let stuff go. And here's the blessing. Sometimes the person that pushes your buttons the most is your greatest blessing, because until you master that relationship, until you master that situation, you will never have full control over your health. Never let somebody outside of you control your biology. If somebody cuts me off in traffic, now I rejoice. They say, well, why are you rejoicing? They almost caused you an accident. I'm rejoicing not because I almost had an accident. I'm rejoicing because in that moment, I had an opportunity to practice proactivity. I had an opportunity to gain more control back over my own body. I didn't have to react to it. I proacted. That means I paused and I thought about it and I chose the appropriate response based upon my health. You get it? That's power. When you can have that type of power, you ain't got to worry about any disease or even a weakness in your immune system. So it's important, if you're moving towards the red, you need to start thinking about how you're responding to the people around you and the situations, okay? And let me say this real quick. Do we have a pulse ox here?
Yes.
So our pulse ox, I don't know if the one here does it, but when you put the pulse ox on your finger to measure your oxygen saturation, ours beep. So you can hear the person's heartbeat when it's on there. But we had a young lady sitting down and I was measuring her oxygen saturation and it was about 70. Well, while I had it on her finger, she started talking about her children, but she was talking about the things that were going wrong with her children. And as she was talking about it, it started beeping faster and faster and faster. By the time she finished, it was in the 80s. Her body went into a stress response just by sitting there and thinking about her children. She wasn't in a life-threatening situation. How many times have you done that? You just sat up in a room and you thought about something that happened to you or something you have to do. By thought alone, you can activate your stress response. So if you are seeing yellow and red in the vascular resistance, it's not because you're in a real life-threatening situation. It's because you're not even managing your thoughts. Think on these things. That which is pure, that which is true, that which is honest, if it be of any virtue, if it has any praise. What does scripture say? Think on these things. What is it trying to tell you? That you ain't managing your stress if you don't think right. Vascular elasticity. Usually this is going to be to the left. Why? Because if there's a decrease in elasticity, that means that there's an increase in plaque buildup in your coronary arteries. You understand that? The plaque is sticking to the walls and it's hardening the artery. That's called arterial sclerosis. So when it says a mild, moderate, and a severe decrease in elasticity, and this is said in vascular, this is referring to the vessels on top of the heart. If I drop down to coronary artery elasticity, these are the blood vessels on the heart. The difference is the ones up top and the ones that are actually on the heart. The coronary arteries are supplying the heart with blood and nutrients. So if a person is having chest pain, it's probably because of the plaque buildup on the coronaries. Okay, so ironically, this person is in the green. Up here, this person is in the yellow. So it's very likely that you can have plaque on top of the heart and not plaque on the heart. Okay, it doesn't matter. The cleanse dissolves it wherever it's at. It doesn't matter. That's the point I want to make. We just need to know where it's at. If you have a history of heart disease in the family, there's a chance that you're going to start seeing plaque on the heart and plaque down here. Like I was telling you in 2011, my coronary artery, I was showing yellow in decreased elasticity. That's how I knew I was about to have a heart attack. But it didn't make sense because I was running and I was vegan. But once again, the subconscious mind was still running the old program. You see? So that's why you have to bring the mind back with the body. That's called quantum physics. See, Newtonian physics is what the healthcare industry was built on, the so-called healthcare industry. But when you bring the mind back in, like Dr. Thomas was saying, now you're explaining spirituality. Now the scientists are becoming spiritual. Before they were separate, now they're spiritual. Myocardial blood demand. This is the amount of blood your heart demands every 60 seconds. Did you know that you have an economy and a deadline to meet every 60 seconds? If your heart is not meeting that deadline, you're falling behind. You have 50 trillion employees working to keep you alive. Wow. 50 trillion employees. And I'm not joking about this. You literally have 50 trillion cells. That is a smaller version of you. Your cells have organs. Well, you have organs, your cells has organelles. We know this from biology, right? Your cells breathe, you breathe. Your cells excrete waste, you excrete waste. Our cells made up a community and it was called the human being. Your cells were here before you were. So if you're not meeting that 1 minute demand, like here it says an increase. Anytime there's an increase in myocardial demand, that means that your heart is working harder than it should. How many is seeing an increase in myocardial demand on their report? There are 3 things that weaken your heart. Do you know what they are? Stress, diet, and a lack of what? Got it. So you have some people that are actually exercising, right? They say, well, I exercise, I shouldn't have a weak heart. But if you have stress and a bad diet, you override the exercise. You need exercise, a lack of stress, and a good diet in order to get your heart strong. And guess what? That demand will fall back in place. Okay? Myocardial blood perfusion volume. Myocardial, that just means heart. This is the rate of perfusion. Perfusion means the exchange of gases back and forth into the heart and into the blood and into the tissue. This is usually going to be at a decrease. This is going to be at a decrease because one, this person has a moderate decrease in the blood perfusion volume. If there's an increase in demand, there's a good chance that you're going to have a decrease in volume. When remember what I told you about the lady with the pulse ox? When her heart was 70, those chambers were filling up pretty sufficiently, right? When she started thinking about her children, it started speeding up. Do those chambers have a lot of time to fill up sufficiently? No. So when you're under stress, your chambers aren't filling up adequately, which means you're not getting sufficient oxygen or perfusion to the tissue. This is why stress kills us. If you feel yourself under stress, breathe. Pause and breathe. Pause and pray. Call a friend. But don't just run its course, because otherwise you're stressing yourself out. Myocardial oxygen consumption. This person is normal, but a lot of times if there's an increase in myocardial blood demand, there's going to be an increase in oxygen consumption. Why? Because the heart is demanding more oxygen. Simple, right? Stroke volume. Stroke, once again, represents that contraction. This is also the amount of blood in your heart chamber when it contracts, not the stroke that happens in the brain. So here, this is saying that there's a decrease in stroke volume. This lets us know that your heart is also weak. Drop down to left ventricular ejection impedance. What does impedance mean?
Blockage.
Blockage, resistance, something that's hindering you. This is usually going to be to the right. So if it's to the right, if you have blue, yellow, or red, that means that there's an increase in impedance to the left ventricle ejecting blood out. Got that? And impedance. Something is impeding the left ventricle from ejecting that blood out. Could be stress. Actually, it could be vascular elasticity, couldn't it? Because what did I say? You have a heart chart. The left ventricle is the ventricle that carries the oxygen. That's why they're measuring the left ventricle, not the right, but the left. So when you inhale, air comes in, it goes through the pulmonary vein down into the left atrium into the left ventricle, and then the left ventricle ejects the blood out to the rest of the body, and it starts supplying the tissue with oxygen. If there's a delay to that blood coming out of the left ventricle, what's going to suffer? The brain, because your heart has to pump against gravity to get up to the head. That's why the first sign of degeneration and disease is what's happening in the brain. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. That's going to be the first thing. Let me see. This is important because a weakening of the heart is not just about heart disease. It's about what's going to happen in your brain. The brain needs a lot of oxygen. So the vessels on the heart, those are the coronaries. See the ones up here up top, right over the heart? That's the one that's measuring the vascular elasticity. Now, if you're pumping out of the left ventricle and you have to pump it through this aorta, if there's plaque up here, then that's going to impede the ejection of blood coming out of the aorta to get to the brain. You see? That's where the impedance could be coming from, the blockage up here. So when it says left ventricular ejection impedance, there's something slowing down the ability of that blood to get out and get to the brain. If it's plaque, we need to dissolve the plaque. If it's on the coronary arteries, that's going to affect how the heart pumps. I'm explaining this as a layman's term as possible so you can understand it. Left ventricular effective pump power. This is actually talking about the strength of your heart. That's pretty obvious. Sorry about that. If this starts to fall behind, usually that's going to be to, let me see. So with this person, guess what? They're showing a decrease in pump power. But then we already kind of know that because look, the stroke volume is already a decrease. The perfusion volume is already at a decrease. The vascular elasticity is already decreased. So there's a story being told here. So now when you get down to pump power, it's obvious you have a weak heart. What's causing it? Could be stress, could be diet, could be a lack of exercise. How many dealing with all three? That's what I'm saying. Coronary artery elasticity. Right now, this person is normal, but this is normally to the left. To the left means a decrease in elasticity. This is how, when we see person in a blue and a yellow, we know that they're moving towards a heart attack. We're catching a heart attack before the crisis. We're catching strokes before the crisis because the scan is telling us. Drop down to coronary perfusion pressure. Well, look at this. This person has an increase in pressure. Why? Probably because of the stress up here. You see the correlation? When your body's under stress, everything is squeezing. Everything is tight, even the vessels on your heart. Relax. Just relax. Oh, people making comments down there. So y'all blocking the scan, y'all.
Oh, no, they were talking about the little chart you showed,
Oh, you
but they can't really see it, but we have some
Can they see?
graphics here. They can see the arteries down there.
all right.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Can you guys see this? So I'm gonna have you switch back after I
Okay.
explain this, because I'm gonna do.
Right.
So atherosclerosis is the same as arteriosclerosis. It's a hardening of the arteries. When this is how it's supposed to look. This is very elastic. When plaque starts building up on the inside, this is mild. This is moderate. This is you on your way to the emergency room. You see? This is a progression. You know what I discovered is that everyone that eats meat is going through this process. I promise you, I didn't want to discover that because everybody in my family eats meat. What this means is that we're all waiting for that heart attack to show up. It's like the elephant in the room. We don't want to address it. We're looking at it in our parents. But the truth is, unless you change something about your lifestyle, you are going to go through this process. It's inevitable. Now, this person may get here quicker. This person may take a little bit longer, but the destination is inevitable. What we're saying is that, hey, slow down on the animals or stop. Slow down or stop. Detox your body. We dissolve the plaque. We move you back from here to here. I did it with myself. Remember, I was here and I was running track and I was vegan. When I saw that, I humbled myself. I said, hey, it's not as right as I thought it was. I started detoxing within 30 days. I was back here. Within 8 months, every last one of my heart reports was in the green. I worked with intention to get my heart back in normal range, and I became the fastest in the world, over 400 meters at the age of 40. And then, you see, so you see the difference? Had I not had that scan, it would have been a whole different story, and I wouldn't be here with Melissa, Sharon, with none of these people helping you guys to help your families and friends to live a better life. So praise God for that. Praise God for that. Back. So 2 more items on here. Let's deal with the brain. So the last 2, can everybody see the last 2? Look on the last 2 on your reports. The last 2 is cerebral blood vessel elasticity. Thanks, Charlotte. Praise God. Brain tissue blood supply status. These are the only 2 dealing with your brain. As you know, if that's to the left in cerebral blood vessel elasticity, what does that mean? Plaque is building up where? Up here. Right. If the brain tissue blood supply status is to the left, that means you're not getting a lot of oxygen to your brain. And you're progressively not getting oxygen to the brain. At some point, you will have no oxygen going to the brain, or you may have plaque buildup that is blocking off the oxygen to that part of the brain. What does that lead to? Stroke. You see what we're doing? We're discovering things before the crisis show up. In other words, you're actually looking at the future when you see your scan. That's right. You're seeing the future. When you see the future, it changes. If that's not a blessing, I don't know what is. Because if you never saw the future, then you would never know that a heart attack is in your future or a stroke is in your future. And it may not come next year, may not come in 2 years, but guess what? It's coming. This is one of the reasons why we got to let go to animals, because we're not breaking down those proteins. They're 102. Our body temperature is 98.6 degrees. We're not breaking that protein down. We're not breaking those oils down. And that's why we're clogging up. So we have heart disease in the brain. So when a person sees a decrease in coronary elasticity, a decrease in cerebral blood elasticity, in that moment, they have a chance to turn their whole life around. God has just redeemed them and given them a second chance to live, because otherwise they was just going to head straight into the fire. And you know that life, that's a rough life. You know people who've had a stroke and they trying to get their function back. It's just not the same. They may get it to some extent, but man, it's just the life is just not the same quality after that. So don't wait until it happens. All right, you guys ready? Pull up your liver function. Now this is important because one, I can't tell you, I would say not 8 out of 10 people are dealing with a fatty liver. 8 out of 10, especially based upon your diet. So one of the amazing properties of the BIO scan is actually discovering at what point your liver is in. Because I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna bring Sharon up to give her testimony. Have you done that? So I want to talk about how important flushing that liver is. Your liver, I'll show you guys. You guys got a picture of it. So this is how big the liver is in your abdomen. The liver is a filter. The purpose of the filter is to detoxify your blood. So all of this is common sense. This is stuff that we should have learned at the baby's age. This should have been this should have been conditioned into us a long time ago. But your liver detoxes the blood. So obviously, if the liver gets clogged up with fatty deposits, yeah, you're going to have complications because now the liver is not cleaning the blood. So let's look at the scan. So you have protein metabolism, energy production, detoxification function, bile secretion function, and fatty liver. As you know, this is normal range. This is where it should be, and this is where you are. Color code reflects where you are in real time. Now with protein metabolism, this is going to be more so to the left, right? To the left. There's a decrease in protein metabolism. You got to understand that when your body, when you eat a complete protein, what's a complete protein? That's like a chicken breast. Your body has to break down the complete protein. It's not a cord over there. Sorry about that. Yeah, I got agility. Your body has to break down a complete protein. This is what we need to know, because a lot of people ask me as a vegan, they say, well, how do you get your protein? You do need protein. You just don't need animal protein. You need protein, but let me tell you what you need. You need 9 of the essential amino acids from your protein. 9 of the essential amino acids. What that means is that if you eat a complete protein, your body has to break down that protein in order to get to the amino acids. And then your body takes the amino acids and synthesize new protein. You understand that? Mm-hmm. So we don't need the chicken breast. Actually, a banana has all 9 of those essential amino acids. I just ate a banana because I ran out of food. Y'all ate. I told y'all to save me some. But anyway, that banana was good. I got my protein from it, you see? But how much energy did it take me to break down that banana as opposed to a chicken breast? Not a lot. When you eat a big meal, you know why they get the itis? Because your body has to rally all this energy to start working on breaking down that chicken breast just so it can get to the amino acids, just so your body can reassemble those amino acids based upon the needs of the body. So we do need protein, but we can get all of that from plant protein. Now with plant protein, you may have to have combinations of different food in there, but nonetheless, all protein comes from where? Plants. Did you know that? So the animals that eat the plants have plant enzymes to break down protein, the plant protein. Carnivores do not have the enzymes to break down plant protein. That's why they eat the animals that eat the plants. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's their reason. You have enzymes to break down plant protein. So why do you eat the animals? Because you were taught to eat it. You see the difference? We have not been using any type of intellect in our diet, and we've been using nothing but tradition. It's tradition that's killing us. So we got to start eating intelligently. Especially, see, the babies listen to me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're looking right at me too, like through my soul. But that's okay. I feel like I'm doing something good. You're like, man, I was inspired back in the day from this old guy. Energy production is important too. You know, when you be lacking energy, well, you be lacking energy because guess what? Your body is always working hard to try to break down food. We spend most of our energy just trying to break down food. That's why when you fast and you ain't got to break down no food, guess what? You have all this abundance of energy. Like, man, why do I have all of this energy? Well, do you know every cell in your body carries a negative 0.07 volts of energy? Every cell in your body carries about 0.07 volts of energy. So if you multiply that times 50 trillion cells. Now, you have to do the math, but think about that for a second. Every last one of your cells has a negative volt of energy, and you multiply that times how many cells you have, you already have energy in your body. Food does not give you energy. Food requires your energy in order to break it down. That's why you get sleepy, because now your body has to start working on breaking down that food. So when you fast, in the beginning, you're a little fatigued, right? Why are you fatigued? Because detoxification is what? The most energy consuming process in the body. Yeah. You see, that's why you're fatigued for the first few days. That's okay. But once you get out of those first 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, guess what happens? Energy shoots right on up. Now you're doing things that you don't even realize you cleaned up the whole house. Like, wow, I just did that. You didn't know, because now your energy is back. They say the less you eat, the longer you live.
Wow, say that again.
The less you eat, the longer you live. This is why I like with Nation of Islam, they talk about eating what, 1 meal a day? Believe it or not, 1 meal a day is sufficient. Now, if you're used to eating 3 meals a day, that's not going to be that easy, because you're conditioned to eating 3 meals a day. All this is about reconditioning your habits. Your habits is on autopilot. So that means you have to first become conscious of your habits, start working on them consciously, and then they now become unconscious. So now we understand that food is not an energy source. It's your body is tapping its own energy. So when you fast and your energy starts to climb, now you are building up reserve energy. When you build up reserve energy, if you have something that needs repair, you now have the energy to repair it. You now have the energy to correct the liver, to correct the kidney. So when people start having these miraculous healings, it's because now they have the energy to do it. That's why fasting is so powerful. We have what's called a luxury fast, a holy roller fast. Like I did, a long time ago, I did a 40-day fast, and I dropped from 225 pounds down to 160. They thought I had AIDS. And I understand because I was starting to look sick. But what I was actually getting well. I couldn't really talk to him about it because this was between me and God. I didn't know where he was taking me, because it was hard for me to make that decision to drop that weight. Because I was, I hate to say this, because you guys are gonna start going back and looking for me. But I was doing Jenny Jones' show 2021. I was one of her beefcake models. I was the one that came out with no shirt on, black pants, and everybody screaming. And everybody loved me until I dropped that weight. And they flew the coop. It was like, nah. They turned on me quick, too. It's a mess. That's how I can understand how when a star is up here and all of a sudden he falls down, it's like all that fame and fortune and love goes away. But I had to let go of the image that I created out of insecurity. You see? It was all insecurity. That's all that was. You have to stop being who you think you are to become who you really am. See, I am. I'm not using bad English here, because that's who you are. The I am in me is the same I am in you. That's God's name forever. That's why when Moses asked God, well, who should I say sent me to the children of Israel? He said, I am that, comma, I am. You see, I am you. I am this. All this is that, right? And that alone is what? There we go. So what I'm saying is that you have to come into who you really are. Don't be afraid, because who you really are is going to clean your system and it's going to take you higher, and you're going to meet that quantum being. You know who that quantum being is? Jesus Christ. He's a quantum being. And unless you understand the quantum realm, you can't access that quantum realm. You can't access him. But once you access that quantum realm, he's with you forever, permanently, and he keeps you alive forever. So that's why the mind and the body coming together is now bridging science with spirituality. And now we're starting to have a complete whole protocol of how to get to everlasting life. So look, detoxification, so your liver detoxifies. If that's at a decrease, of course, that may also have to do with the fatty liver. I'm gonna tell you, a lot of times these are green. It's usually this one that's out. If that fatty liver is moderately, mildly, or severely at an increase, that means you have a clogged liver. I'm gonna have Sharon come up for a second, because you women, I want you to understand from a woman's perspective how she dealt with her fibroids. This is Sharon, it's my beautiful fiance. And she's gonna give you a testimony that's gonna blow your mind. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Y'all look so beautiful. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad that you all are here. And yes, I have an amazing testimony, because when I met Dr. Prince, I was dealing with fibroids. And years prior to that, I had an emergency situation with fibroids. I had a fibroid that developed in my uterus and went from something they couldn't see to the size of a grapefruit in a 9-month period, and it was trying to deliver like a baby. I was having excruciating pain, heavy bleeding, all kinds of discomfort. I couldn't go to work. There were days I would be in the shower and couldn't even get out the shower because it was coming at me like a faucet. And I had an emergency situation where I had to be rushed to the hospital because I passed out, and I had to have what they call a DNC. So they scraped out my uterus. And at that point I was like, this is great. My menstrual cycle went to 3 days. I was like, am I getting pumped? But it was great because I didn't have that discomfort anymore. I didn't have the pain. I didn't have the heavy bleeding. I went back to my life. So I thought. Speed ahead, years later, I started developing fibroids all over again. And I couldn't understand why, what was going on. I was doing herbal things. I was meditating a little bit. I was trying to change my diet, but nothing was really working because I didn't have a clear understanding of what I really needed to be doing. I didn't know I had a severe fatty liver. So when I met Dr. Prince and I saw my scan, I immediately started making changes. I did the 21-day detox. I became vegan. I have not looked back. I don't ever want to eat meat again because it was literally wreaking havoc on my body. And within 2 years, I brought my severe fatty liver back to the green.
Oh, wow.
Back to normal. But the key is that I had to put in the work, not just with detoxing, not just with changing my diet, but mentally. Part of the major reason that I was dealing with those issues was because of emotional trauma in my life. I was in a bad marriage. I was severely depressed. All kinds of things in my life just weren't matching up. So I had to make those changes, and I had to forgive some people, mainly myself. So after going through that process and making all those changes, my life is so different now. People that I used to be good friends with, not anymore, because they're still vibrating at a lower level. And I'm up here now. So when I talk to them, they can't understand me anymore. We don't connect like that. I still love them and I pray for them and I continue doing what I do because at some point they're gonna say, I need to make some changes too. If you can do it, I can do it. If I did it, y'all, you can do it. I was a heavy meat eater. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, I was eating meat. And I was loving it. I also was a baker. So ice cream and cake was my jam. Day in and day out. It was causing me some problems. So I said that to say that no matter what your diet and lifestyle is, you can change it. And you cannot look back. Keep going forward. Elevate.
So the reason this is important is because I know a lot of women, raise your hand if you have dealt with fibroids. Wow, it's a lot. So that was right on point for you guys. This is important because even though she did the surgery, which we think, okay, if it's a side of grapefruit, yeah, you might, that's when you need an emergency care. You might have to get it removed. But like she said, she got it removed, but what happened? It came back. Now the question is, why did it come back? Because she had a fatty liver. Let me explain. Estrogen, when estrogen increases in the body, which comes from a lot of food we eat, you even have some what they call xenoestrogens, which are estrogen-like substances that's in your hairspray. You know, if somebody pull up xenoestrogens and the list of things that estrogen is in. Xenoestrogen, Z-E-N-O. You will be surprised, right? You'll be surprised all the stuff that you do that has estrogen in it that you're not just consuming in your mouth. And if you're taking in all this estrogen and your body can't break it down in order to eliminate it, then it has to encapsulate it.
Just interject one second.
Xeno, Z-E-N-O, estrogen. Go ahead.
How many of you are using Vaseline? Baby oil.
Uh-oh.
Those have xenoestrogen. I just wanted to say that.
Talcum baby powder, all that stuff. See, these are products that they didn't tell us that has this estrogen in it. So even men are taking in excessive levels of estrogen and they're getting boobs. A man of pecs, so I can flex mine. If you can flex them, then they're good. But if they ain't flexing, you can tell him to detox or something. So anyway, estrogen goes through a two-part process when it goes through the liver in order to be broken down. If you have a fatty liver, it's not going to be able to break down an estrogen sufficiently. So your body is going to mercifully put the estrogen in a capsulated place where it can grow to the size of a baby. The blessing is that it puts it in the uterus. If you put it anywhere else, it would have be some complications. So what I'm trying to say is that your body is always working in your favor. It's going to encapsulate it down there because it's trying to buy you some time until you figure out that the body is toxic and the liver is fatty. When you clean the liver out, as we did with Sharon, guess what? The fibroids start shrinking because they're no longer necessary. It's that simple. And they'll never come back because she'll never allow her liver to get to that point ever again.
So safe to say, if you target that liver, you can take care of that whole body.
Exactly. In fact, the liver covers heart disease, diabetes, fibroids, strokes. It covers everything because the life of the flesh is in the blood. So if you don't clean the blood, if you don't detoxify the blood, then the angel of death is not going to pass over your house. He's going to come into your house. You now have to become the living sacrifice. Remember in scripture how they had to put the blood on the doorpost? you now represent the Lamb of God because the blood was clean. The blood of the Lamb was clean blood. When God was taking sacrificial offerings, he didn't take the blemished animals. He took the unblemished animals. So if your blood is polluted, you're not even a worthy sacrifice unto God. But if you become a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service, then as you clean your blood, the angel of death will pass over your house. The angel of diabetes, the angel of heart disease, the angel of cancer will pass over your house and not touch you and even your family for a little while. What you do now with your own body, as you flush your liver to clean your blood, you will grant a level of grace to the people around you. But just like in Jesus' situation, he did what he had to do. He played his part, but now you have to play your part. This process is a mystical sacrifice unto God because you're literally dying to who you were in order to become someone else. That someone else enters into the quantum realm because in the quantum realm, there's infinite possibilities. There's a version in the quantum realm of you without fibroids.
Yes.
There's a version of you in the quantum realm without heart disease, without a stroke coming, without diabetes. You have to go in and tap into that version and pull that version down. And now you have just broke the habit of being. You see, this making sense to you guys?
Yeah.
And that's what Sharon did. That's why she said the people she used to hang out with, she's not that person anymore. She's somebody else, so they can't relate to her because she broke the habit of being herself. Sometimes the people around you will hold you in a toxic way to your lifestyle. So yeah, you might have to let some people go in order to rise higher. When I became vegan, I got outcasted, I got alienated, but I had to go prepare a place. And I knew they couldn't come with me. But when I returned, I was able to bring them back there with me. And guess what? That's why you guys are sitting here now, because that place is now prepared. But you now have to walk through that door. If you don't walk through that door, there's nothing we can do about it. We can turn fibroids, heart disease, we can turn all that stuff around now. There's nothing incurable because everything is curable from where? Within. So bile, this person has a decrease in bile secretion. Bile is secreted by the liver and it breaks down fat. Fat is an energy source. But if you have emotional issues, if you're a stressed person, then those emotions interfere with gland activity and it causes your body to store fat instead of burning it as fuel. And that's what now leads, that's why the fatty liver builds up, because you're not storing it. We store anger in our liver. So if you can't get past some angry episodes, you're constantly making that liver fatty, like Sharon was saying. So when we see a fatty liver on your chart, we already know that you're a candidate for detoxification. There's not one drug on the market in the medical arena that's going to help this fatty liver. You know why? Because all medication has to be processed in the liver. So if you're taking medication for heart disease or diabetes or cancer, and it has to be processed in the liver, and the liver is the only thing that can reverse those conditions, then you can never get away from those conditions. And that's the dilemma. Next one, yeah. Any questions? I want y'all look shocked out there.
Oh, there's the stage.
Okay, so real quick, you have two types of liver. You have a non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is a disease that's potentially fatal, condition that wreaks as much damage to your liver as would a bottle of vodka a day. You have a non-alcoholic fatty liver and you have an alcoholic fatty liver. Some people probably got both. Sharon was not a drinker until she met me. So look, no, I'm sorry. I detox all the time now. I get that liver cleaned out. So look, the fact that she wasn't drinking alcohol and she had a severe fatty liver, that means that you don't have to be a drinker to start moving through this process of fatty liver. Because look, what fatty liver is only the second stage. If you never address it, fibrosis, cirrhosis. At this point, you have to get a new liver. Now, I haven't gotten anyone that was at this point, because by this time they're already on the donors list and they're trying to get a new liver. Unfortunately, one of our cool football players, Walter Payton, he had liver failure. They was going to put him at the front of the list to get a liver. But you know what Walter Payton did? He said, nope, I'm not going to jump in front of somebody else just because I'm popular. And he died. If I would have I wasn't in it back then, but if I was able to work with Walter Payton and he was with that fatty liver, he would still be here. You see? So it doesn't matter how much money you have. In fact, the more popular you are, the more money you have, it's probably going to be worse, because you're going to settle for having the best medical doctors because you have the money to pay them. So you're going to get the best drugs, the best operations. You see? All the best stuff, but is it right for your body? I don't want to keep everybody here all night. We moving, y'all.
No, next one, 1 second. There we go.
Kidneys. Are you looking at your kidney report? Now, this is important. You know why? Because you walk out of here, walk a few blocks away, you have a dialysis place. Go down a few blocks more, another dialysis. They're all over the place. They're like a franchise, a McDonald's franchise. You know, one of the wealthy billionaires that's investing in these is what's his name? Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has seen the trend in the Black neighborhood. Now, let me ask you this: is it wrong of him?
No, it's capital.
It's sad, but hey, he's looking at the trend. Unfortunately, if people are not taking care of their health, it's not his fault. He's a billionaire for a reason. But the point is that we have to stop making him richer than what he is. Urability index, uric acid, blood urea nitrogen, protein urea. Most of these are going to be to the right. So here you have mild increase, urability, normal uric acid, mild increase of urea, blood bun. Sometimes they do that in the labs at the hospital. They measure your bun. And then here in the yellow is protein urea, which is basically what it is, protein in the urine. Why do you think you have protein in the urine? Because you're not breaking it down anymore. So you're relying upon your kidneys to try to filter it out. And what is that doing? It's damaging your filtration system. Why do you have protein in the urine? Because if you've been eating meat a long time, you're depleting your own stores of enzymes that are breaking down the meat. So if you start eating meat and you're 18, which a lot of athletes do, then at some point you don't have the enzymes necessary to efficiently break down the meat. So now you're having larger molecules of meat in the bloodstream being filtered out by the kidneys, and that's what's damaging the filtration system. Not only that, but with uric acid, when meat breaks down, it turns into urea. Urea turns into uric acid. It gets into the joints, and that's what causes gout. So elevated levels of uric acid means that your kidneys is not filtering out the waste products. Elevated levels of urability or bun means that these are waste products as well. Anytime they're at an increase, whether it's mild, moderate, or severe, that means your kidneys is not filtering them out properly. So if you're seeing that on your report, you definitely need to flush your kidneys and probably your liver, okay? Any questions? Yeah.
What does it mean if it's like to the left?
Well, that was a good question. These are to the left. So to the left would mean decrease. That would mean a decrease of these, but these are in this, the way this report is designed, it's either going to show normal or an increase. Because if there's an increase, that's an indication that the function is declining. So you won't necessarily see it at a decline. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't.
Hold on. So if it's in a decrease, does that mean it's a good thing or a bad thing?
It actually should be a good thing, but you won't see it a decrease. There should be the decrease that he's trying to see. The decrease would be from a red back to a green. The decrease would be from a yellow back to a green. The decrease would be from a blue back to a green. Not that way. You understand? All right.
So you're actually talking about reverse.
Exactly.